Hi, Nice Community Church. It's lovely to be with you again, trusting that each and every one of you is well and safe and at home and persevering during this lockdown season. And I'd also like to say thank you to each and all who have prayed and sent well wishes to me this week. Many of you knew that I was unwell, and I'm still on the mend, and by God's grace I'll get there and come back to a full recovery. This week I have a short message for you, and it's found in the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verses 29 to 31, and they read like this: He gives power to the weak and strength to the powerless. Even youths become weak and tired, and young men fall in exhaustion. But those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. They will soar high on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. I'm sure you've heard those verses before. As I was thinking about those verses earlier on today, one thought that came to my mind was that there are seasons in the life of God's people where they are coasting. They are just getting on with life, getting on with God, and all seems to be going well. And isn't life and our relationship wonderful when life is like that, when our relationship with God is where we're walking with Him in love, in faith, in hope and in trust, and all is well between us and Him. And in contrast to that, there is also times when I think that the people of God, or even the person of God, is in need of a word from God. Have you ever experienced that in your own life? Has there ever been a time in your life when you've thought to yourself, I need to hear from God. I really just need to hear His voice. I'm not really interested in what anyone else is saying to me at this time. They may have good wishes, they may have sound advice, they may have good guidance. They may want to give me something or help me in some way. But the thing that I need at this particular time in my life is to hear a word from God. And I know that in my own personal life and in my own journey, there have been moments in my life, seasons, where I felt I just need to hear your voice. And that is the voice of the Lord, because it's when we hear His voice that brings clarity, it brings comfort, and it brings reassurance to our hearts and to our souls. Why did I share that? Because if that's you, then I do believe that God has a word for you, a word directly into your heart that will comfort you, that will help you, that will support you, and that will strengthen you for this time of your life. The other thought that I had as I read these verses earlier on was that these particular verses are very clear. They are very direct. They speak of what God will do for His people and what He will give to His people for those that will trust in Him. There's no shadiness, there's no cloudiness or mistiness. It's pretty simple, it's pretty direct. It just simply and clearly tells us what God will give to His people as they trust in Him. For instance, in verse 29, it says this: He gives power to the weak and strength to the powerless. He gives power to the weak. There are times in our lives when we are weak. It's important that we recognize that in ourselves and that we identify that in ourselves. That we are able to kind of look ourselves in the mirror and say to ourselves, we get weak. That there are times where we are not strengthened, that we don't have all our ducks in a row, that we don't have it all together. And I suppose that once we recognise that we get weak, then that puts us even in a better position, because then we are able to open up our hearts, to open up our lives to God, and to acknowledge to Him, to say, God, my Father, Lord, I'm weak. I feel weak. I feel that I don't have the strength that I need at this particular time. And so therefore, these verses are promises from God to His people that He will strengthen those who are weak, and He will empower those who are powerless. And I think that's what we need. I think that this is part of a relationship with God, where we identify in our lives that I get weak, and sometimes I don't have the power. I don't have what it takes, but that's okay, because God gives me what I need, and that is He will give me strength, and He will give me power. That is power to love Him, power to continue in this life, and power to just to live each and every day. Verse 30 says this: even youths will become weak and tired, and young men will fall in exhaustion. Young people, it's mentioned here, even youths. Sure, if anybody had strength and vitality and energy, sure, it's young people. Have you ever noticed young teenagers or young children, how often they can just go and go and go? Where do they get their strength from? Where do they get their energy from? Many times we ask ourselves. And yet, this particular verse is acknowledging that even those who we expect to have energy and power and strength to go on and on, even those get weak and tired and get exhausted. And that speaks to me about my expectations of others. That maybe there are those around me, or maybe there are people around you that you expect to have strength, and you expect that they will have the energy or the power or the answer or the guidance. And I wonder to myself that even that those people that we expect or have certain expectations of, that this is clearly saying that even those people get tired, and even those people who we expect to have energy or to expect to have the answer may not have the answer. They may not know the way. They may not have what it takes. But the wonder and the beauty of these verses is in 31, verse 31. And it says this: but those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. They will soar high on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. It's simple. But those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. These verses speak of anybody that is willing to trust in the Lord, anybody that is willing to humbly bring themselves to Him and to say to Him, I don't have the power, I don't have the strength, I don't have what it takes, but I know that you can give it to me, and I know that you promise to empower me and to strengthen me and to give me the energy and the love and the empowerment of your Spirit to live life and to follow you in the way that you would have me go. It also speaks of new strength, that the Lord will give His people new strength and that they will find new strength. Have you ever experienced that? Have you ever experienced where you've brought yourself to God in desperation because it seems like He's the only one that you know has the answer. He's the only one that you can go to that will be able to strengthen you, comfort you, guide you, hold you together. And that in that process of throwing yourself upon him, you find yourself strengthened. And that's because this is what God does. This is what he promises to his people. He promises to strengthen his people. He promises to empower his people. He promises that those who trust in him, that he will strengthen them with a new strength. And so this is an encouragement. This is a confidence builder in faith for the people of God. And I urge you to trust yourself to God at this time in your life, to wholly just humble yourself to him, to bring yourself to him in such desperation and say, Lord, I acknowledge that I don't have what it takes, but I know that as I open myself to you, that you are the one that will strengthen me. You are the one that will give me what I need to continue and to carry on. And the writer, Isaiah, makes an analogy. He paints a picture. It says that when people depend and trust themselves to God, and as they find new strength, he likens them to soaring high on wings like eagles. And have you ever seen an eagle as it soars in the sky? And you've often wondered, how does the eagle stay in the sky and it doesn't seem to be using too much energy? It doesn't seem to be flapping its wings. It just seems to be gliding and circling in the sky. And as we all know that it soars on the hot and warm thermals of air. And that's a picture that as we entrust ourselves to God, and that as we know the warmth of his love and the warmth of his empowerment in our lives, that we too will rise like the eagle, and that we will soar in worship and soar in our relationship with him, that we will not be in a flap like some of the other birds, like a pigeon that is flapping its wings, looking for flight or looking for energy, but rather we will be like the eagle that is soaring on the thermals of God's love. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. And this is a picture of when God comes to his people and he strengthens them and he empowers them and he gives them what they need to continue to live and to continue to follow him in this season of their lives. And it all depends on them just trusting him. And that's the simplicity of this particular word, is that it depends on us just simply saying, Lord, I do not have what it takes, but I know that when I trust myself to you, I know that when I give myself to you, that you empower me with the love of your Spirit. You give me strength and comfort and guidance. And I find that through that process of trusting in you, I find new strength. And so maybe that's a picture of your life at this moment in time. Are you in this season of your life where you feel that you need to hear from God? Do you feel that you just need to hear his voice? And you know that once you hear his voice, that everything will be calmer, everything will be assured. What is God saying? This is what he's saying. He's saying, come to me, trust in me, and as you do that, he will strengthen you, he will comfort you, he will empower you, And that as he does that, you will rise like an eagle on the warmth of his power, on the warmth of his strength, and on the warmth of his love. And you will be able to continue. You'll be able to carry on. You will be able to navigate through this life as an eagle navigates and soars in the skies. And so it's a very short word. It's a very precise word. And so it's all about trust. But those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. Today is a word about trust. He wants you to trust in him. Are you trusting in him? Maybe it's been the case that you have looked to others for the answers. Maybe it's been the case that you've been depending on other things falling your way or falling in line for you. God is simply saying, just trust in me. Trust your life to me. Trust your world to me. Trust your future to me. Trust your family to me. And as you trust yourself to him, he will strengthen you. He will comfort you. He will empower you. And through that, you'll know the comfort of your God in your life. May God keep you and strengthen you and bless you. In Jesus' name, amen.